Hello everyone, I am Brady Bridges and I'm the broker and owner of Reside Real Estate here in Fort Worth, Texas. I want to welcome you to another episode of Real Talk with Reside Real Estate. We are a top producing team here in Fort Worth, Texas, and we want this podcast to be a resource for anyone looking to learn more about real estate and the great city of Fort Worth, Texas.
Welcome back to another episode of Real Talk with Reside Real Estate. Today I'm joined by Steve DeLeon. He is the owner of MCM Real Estate Services. He has been working as a real estate investor since 1988 in Tarrant, Johnson, Parker, and Dallas County areas. During this time, he's been part of thousands of transactions. His career spanned a diverse range of investment practices such as buy and hold, fix and flip, and small multifamily. Today, he works primarily as a value-driven investor, providing solutions to homeowners and realtors alike by creating relationships that are honest, transparent, and fair. Steve, thanks for coming in today.
You bet. Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Looking forward to this.
So I thought you'd be a great person to bring in because, you've helped us out a number of times. And, you're really well known in Fort Worth for not only providing a lot of value to agents, but teaching investors. So I thought it'd be a good conversation to have. So
Absolutely.
If you don't mind, kind of expand on how you got started and kind of what you guys do over there at MCM.
All right. Well, how I got started, I was actually, 21 years old when I got the opportunity to work at an intern really at a real estate investment company. And from there, I stayed. They actually hired me on after the 6-month internship. So I was there for almost 3 years. And then from then on, I felt like I could do this on my own. So at 24 years old, I bought my very first investment property. And that was way back, March 9th, 1988, a lot, long before any of your viewers were probably born.
How much was your first investment property?
It was a lot. If I remember correctly, I think that one was like $13,500. And it was a little house on the east side of Fort Worth. And back then, you could tie the property for $500 as earnest money. Yeah, nobody ever really questioned that. But yeah, it was some fun times. And obviously, over the last 35 years, we've evolved as a company. We've grown. And now what we do is we kind of really focus on three buckets within MCM Real Estate Services, and one of them is still primarily the investment piece, and providing those solutions to our agents and broker partners that we have. But we also created the MCM University, and that's where we offer a coaching and mentoring program as well.
And I think that's great.
Yeah, it's really for individuals that are interested in investing and want to take that next step and just really don't know where to start, where to go. There's a lot of misinformation on social media about what investment looks like and how to get started. So I like doing it with people that I know because we know the DFW area. We know, so we're able to talk to what works here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool program because investments, as you've done this a long time, you've seen some of these companies come and go, and they bait a lot of people who want to be investors in, and they really get screwed. So it gives you an opportunity to teach people
exactly how
to do it the right way and how to avoid the pitfalls that maybe as you were going along.
Exactly. And that's what I tell to tell our students. At this point, I want you to copy what I'm doing because I know that it works. I went through the trials and errors, even though I was in the real estate investment space for those 3 years with that company. When I left, I struggled for the first 2 or 3 years because I didn't know as much as I thought I knew. Yeah. And even so, someone that was doing it day in and day out, there was a lot of things that I was missing myself. So that's one of the things I tell a lot of our realtors, for example, that aren't investing. I understand that you're doing the traditional sellers and buyers, but doing the investing is much, much different than that. So you really need to have a mentor or a coach that can help you through that process of doing it, so you don't make a mistake and end up costing you financially or hurting your family in some way. You want to make sure that you're doing it the right way.
Yeah, and you've kind of learned how to investing. You got to take emotion out of it, right?
Exactly. So it's a transaction. So you got to really take the emotion out of it.
Real estate agents are emotional people.
Exactly.
We get fired up.
Exactly.
So kind of as your business transitioned, so today I know that you work with your family in a lot of ways, which is really great. What kind of clients do you typically see yourself working with? So you serve real estate agents, you serve investors, and then you also obviously help, sellers that are in need. So Kind of tell us about your client base and how.
So 2 years ago, we discovered that there was a need in the senior living space. Okay. So we invested some resources in bringing on someone that could help us kind of build a network in working and getting to know more about the senior living space. Not so much about like people that are like just interested in downsizing. Okay. For us, it's more about those families where they're getting a call from a doctor or saying, hey, your mom fell down. She's not able to go back home. She's going to end up needing to go into memory care or, something a little bit more serious, right? And so a lot of times those places are super expensive and all of mom and dad's resources are tied up in their house. So we started working with different placement agencies, senior living communities and facilities to basically be that bridge or that liaison between them.
That's so genius.
Yeah, so that we can basically either refer clients to them or they can refer clients to us when they have someone that wants to move into their community, but they have to sell the house first because they have that asset.
They didn't own anything.
Exactly. Every program's a little bit different and every seller situation's a little bit different. Some have the resources to get in, but maybe not sustain, without selling the home. So it's a little bit different. So it's about really sitting down with that individual or the family and trying to figure out what the best plan for them is. Okay. And then we just kind of work that out, whether it's a slow process to buy the property or whether it's going to be a little bit longer process to buy the property and get them the resources that they need. So we've been doing really well with it. It's really been probably, maybe I would say in the last 6 to 8 to maybe 9 months, we've actually really seen the traction of that. Because in the beginning, you're not really sure who you need to be connecting with, what do you need to be doing, right? We know what the need is, but what experts do we need to bring in for that need? And now that we've figured that out,
You could put a whole array of services together.
Oh, yeah.
Just your network, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's what we try to do is build a network. And I tell our team that here's the thing. If we get the house, great. If we don't, it's okay. Because we know we help the family move on. And like, again, it's all going to be situational in what they're needing and the process. So we're not really forcing anybody or trying to, hard sell anybody on that process because it just doesn't pay. It doesn't benefit the family or the client. And when you do that,
and I think you understand that. I think a lot of people that get into investing and kind of buying things that are not in ideal condition, they look very short-sighted at the impact they have on a client.
Yeah.
Or about getting a deal. But by you taking care of somebody and may not work out, it could end up to 3-5-fold the number of people that refer you.
Exactly. In the long run,
I love that y'all are doing that because kind of my word for the year for the team is impact. Like we want to make an impact. I want to make an impact on my agents through real estate and how I train them, and I want them to do that the way they treat people. So that's cool that you're doing that.
Yeah. And then the other,
I know y'all had that forever.
Yeah, we just started. Like I said, we just started. It took us we went to a training in St. Louis. I took my team over there so we could all get the same information and be able to absorb it all, ask questions. And so we spent almost a week there in that training. And the thing I liked about the training is the people that they were interviewing or talking to, they all were from that senior living space. They were placement agents, social workers, the actual caregivers.
Yeah.
And they all talked about the things that they saw and the things where they felt like there was a gap. So we inadvertently from the calls that we get from a lot of our realtor partners, they tell us about a client like this, right? And I remember about 2.5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, we had a situation where we had a realtor partner call us about a property. We made an offer on the property, and the seller's family came back with this odd number, like almost down to the change of what they needed. And I thought that was a little different. I had not experienced that really before. Usually somebody counters and it's 5,000, 10,000, whatever, right? Just a round even number. And so I asked her, well, where are they getting this number from? And they said, well, they calculated mom's age versus how long they think she's gonna live versus how much it costs annually for this community, and that's what it came up with, and that's what they figured they needed to net. Well, there was a little bit of a gap, there was between us, but then, I don't know, there's something about that just kind of spoke to me, and I just said, okay, let's just do it. So from then I realized, hey, there's a need for this. We need to figure out how to get in front of this. As a community, the baby boomers, and I'm at the tail end of it. We've had that sailboat tsunami coming. So we need to figure out how to get in front of it. To be able to solve some of these things.
I think that's really smart. And most average Americans, their house is their number one asset, right? So if the parents still living at later ages, the kids aren't going to have that windfall to be able to support, and it's expensive. I've got a good friend who's in long-term health care, who runs one of the facilities. It's expensive, so I think that's really great. Yeah. So how often between, we call you sometimes, we've got deals. Kind of how does your day split up with running around competing with people in that situation? Like what does a day look like for you?
Well, luckily for us, we hired Vanessa Hernandez, and she basically oversees that senior living community.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily me having to go out and meet with the families and things, but she does, and then she'll bring us the property deal back to us, and we'll evaluate it and see what we can do with it. But for the most part, my day is really spent on really following up with a lot of our realtor partners, because that's really my clients. My clients are really our realtor partners, our brokerage partners, and our town company partners. And so we spend a lot of time on the phone, texting, emailing, calling them, following up on deals that we've made offers on, and those types of things, and see how we can be of value for them. And then the other part is really teaching. So I like to. I never thought of myself as a teacher, but I really like the courses that we teach. We have right now currently we have 2 CE courses that we partner with multiple title companies with, and some brokerages as well. So we try to teach at least a couple of classes a month.
Okay.
Sometimes it's 3 or 4, depending on scheduling and things like that. But so I spend a lot of my time doing that. And what the courses you teach? So it's one is the first one is a CE course. It's working with investors. So what we do is we talk about the 5 different types of investors that your typical realtor, homeowner, title company will come across, and the differences of those 5 and how they profit, so that they have a better understanding and know kind of what questions to ask.
Okay. And
then the second CE course, it goes into more of the detail of how investors write up contracts, why they write them up a certain way, what to look for if there's any red flags that the agent needs to be concerned with. And so we kind of give them a little bit more, that detail. And we've got a couple other classes that we're in the process of developing that are going to be kind of helping agents figure out how to scale their business or not lose. I hear quite a bit from agents about how, well, a friend of mine, knows I'm in real estate, but they wouldn't use somebody else to go buy a house or whatever. Okay, well, the thing is I always still ask them, okay, but do they know what you do? Because there's a difference between having somebody say, okay, I'm a doctor, right? Or I'm an investor, or I'm a realtor, right? But do they know what you do every day? Are you showing them? Are you telling them? Are you marketing it even to them? Don't leave your friends out of your marketing. If you're expecting referrals, then you need to be going to the people that are going to give you a referral.
If you don't, and that's what I always say. Like, yeah, for you, did you ask them?
Exactly. You can't make the assumption that they're gonna pick up the phone and call.
So whenever I interview agents, one of the things I tell them is your friends and family are not going to use you.
Like that.
For the first year and a half, 2 years, then it's kind of like they want to see if you have staying power. Like, to me, that's how I felt. Like, go out and prove that you can do it, and then they get a lot more comfortable, because, as you know, the barrier to entry to get a real estate license is not that hard.
It's really not yet.
So it's
and there's a reason so many fail within the first 2 years and don't renew their license as well.
Yeah,
because you have to have that staying power.
But you do see I haven't been in real estate near as long as you have, but you probably heard this, like, oh, I didn't even know you did that.
Yeah.
Like, or I thought my house might be too cheap, or I'd no, we want to help everybody.
Exactly.
Come on.
Exactly.
So it's kind of shifting to the market. So obviously the market was super hot the past few years. How did that impact you guys trying to do these deals when everybody was at all-time highs on their values? And what have you seen now as things have kind of tapered back to a more normalized market with higher interest rates?
That's a good question, because really one of the myths out there, right, is that, investors must be killing it when the market's strong. And it's really the opposite. It's really the opposite, because for us, it becomes harder to buy properties, right? especially when money was so cheap. Here a couple of years ago, people could borrow money to 2-3%, so they could even, like you're saying, they could overpay and still be able to afford that property. So for us, it was a little bit of a struggle. But I tell people that there's always going to be situations where, no matter how good the times are, right? There's always going to be situations where a family's not going to be able to take advantage of a traditional listing, whether the property just needs a lot of work, whether it's a health crisis, a financial crisis, whether it's, again, mom or somebody falling, that's needing something. And then you walk into some of these houses too, and you feel like you're in an episode of Hoarders, right? And you're like, okay, where do you even begin to try to get?
I walked into one of those.
Yeah.
I follow you.
Right. Yeah. Well, I walked into one earlier this week in Burleson, and I actually told one of my team members that I took with me, and I said, look, just don't even come in. Let me navigate my way through here, and because I didn't even know what was behind the door. Literally, the front door, we had to push it to get up to get into it. I think we're going to put it under contract today. So, but it's one of those situations. So there's always going to be those situations, whether the market is strong or not. Yeah. Now it's a little bit different, to where we're getting a lot more calls from agents and realtors, right? Because they've got properties that have been on the market 60, 90 days. They listed them at the end of the year. There's still not as much activity, and they're trying to figure out, okay, what's the other out? How can I get this property moved? So it's just one of those situations. And the other thing that we try to solve for as well is, so many people want to build a house, but they don't want to have to move twice. Yeah. So we'll buy their existing home and then lease it back to them while they're building their home, so that way they're not having to build us. Yeah, they want to build. They're not having to move one time. The kids aren't having to move school, or they're not having to drive from one end of town to the other to take them to school or whatever.
So like at one time, how many do you kind of limit yourself to the number of deals you get under at one time, or you just take the opportunities as they come? And
we just take the opportunities as they come. Yeah, there's not really a number. When, I don't know, as an investor, entrepreneur, you're like, bring it on. Yeah, you're right. That you kind of have to have that mentality. So
when you have more of these opportunities, do you get more picky about the ones you take? I mean,
more picky about the blocks.
Like I talked something about like Daniel buy box, right? Yeah. Is that kind of how you operate, or
no? Yeah, we'll buy anything.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll buy anything, and I think that's what makes us different than most investors out there, is that we're looking at it from multiple different exit strategies. So on that property. So we're not looking to make a property a flip, or we're looking to make a property a rental and running our numbers that way. We look at more for value and what can we add value to, and how our numbers are gonna pan out from there. And so we'll buy the ugliest house on the street that looks like it should be condemned, to a home that you would think that, I don't understand why people wouldn't just list this on the MLS. So
for me doing it this fall now, like for me, I've helped a lot of people build rental portfolios, right? And I can see when one's a good one. Do you automatically know now? Like
pretty much. Yeah. But when you're looking at it from a rental standpoint, obviously what the revenue is because the key.
Hold a lot.
We hold a lot of our stuff. Yeah. So the revenue is really the key behind that. And so when we run a value, we run it. Obviously, we're looking at what market value is, right? We don't want to overpay from market value. But then we're also looking at it from a revenue standpoint and running our numbers that way as well. That's where we basically take out the taxes, take out what the insurance costs are going to be, and those types of things, and because all that's important for the for the overall cash flow.
So when you buy and hold these properties, are you building up to sell like a portfolio, or are you just keeping them for like within MCM? Is just
we'll just keep them within our company. I've never really thought of selling. What we have done, when our rental portfolio today looks much different than it did back in the 90s, or even the early 2000s. So what we've done is we've taken some of those older properties that we bought in the 90s, early 2000s, and we've 1031 them to buy newer properties.
Okay.
So like all our properties now are pretty much, 2005, 2010. We have some that are built that are like 2-3 years old. And so we're trying to establish to where those properties, as I age, that they're not gonna nickel and dime me when, always in retirement. So that's why we're kind of getting rid of some of the older properties.
Yeah, and using the profits and rolling.
Exactly, so rolling it in and not having to pay taxes, not avoiding, but just not paying the tax, or the tax burden on those properties.
So I've been going through some stuff on mine. Do you do you do any cost segregation stuff on your property?
So that is something that I think a lot of investors and a lot of people don't really truly understand the benefit behind that, right? So now that we're at a point to where we feel like we have almost a portfolio that we want to have, I'm going to go back and start doing the cost segregation on those to start taking advantage of the additional depreciation, because it's different than the 27 and a half years. It's, so, a lot of people don't understand that. They're like, well, why am I going to pay $2,000 or whatever to get this analysis done if I'm not even going to benefit? Well, you are going to benefit. You just have to understand how you're benefiting from it.
Yeah, I'm not a CPA, but my guy told me to do it. And then you look at it, he said, the money you save, go buy it, go put it down towards another piece of property. And rinse and repeat and just keep trying to grow.
Exactly.
But as you just said, the revenue is what matters. And right now, that investor rates, if you're not paying cash, you're over 8%.
Yeah.
So it's not really cash flow there right now.
Yeah.
So what are the major concerns you're hearing? Look, you kind of touched on it. So I call you. Where do you feel like you guys provide the most benefit? So if I'm a seller, you come in, what are you hearing from those people that you guys can solve? Is it related to, I'm sure it's across the board. You said you had hoarders houses, but these recent hailstorms, like people that can't afford to pay for the roof. Where are you seeing the most opportunity to help people at the same time benefit your business with the people you meet with?
Yeah. Who we're helping is really across the board, really. It really spans. And I think, again, that goes back to the fact that, we have multiple exit strategies so that we can look at a property in a different way than a traditional investor would. The thing that I think that for most people, and this is just something that we all get hung up sometimes, is price. Okay. And so a lot of times, we'll make an offer on a property and they're like, oh, okay, that's not going to work. Or an investor makes an offer on a property without really understanding the whole, what is that family truly trying to solve? Because if the only thing that mattered was price, the contract would only be one page long.
Sure.
Right? There's a lot of other things that factors into that offer. So you're wanting to understand. So that's a lot of times we ask our realtor partners these questions, or the homeowners. Okay, well, what's the end goal? What would the ideal transaction look like for you?
Yeah.
They spell it out for us. Well, I'd love to have the money right now, but I can't move for another 30 days. This is what I want to, where I'm looking for. This is what I want to do. We recently purchased a home from an individual, okay, and they were in a position to buy, right? They inherited this home that they were in, but they wanted a nice 1-story, 3-bedroom, 2-bath brick home to at least lease for a year. Okay,
I'm sure you probably have one.
We had one, so we basically bought their house. Okay, and then they gave them at the time we didn't realize when we were writing up the contract. Okay, exactly where they were looking. We didn't know exactly what market they wanted to stay in. And so once we realized that they were looking in the same area that we had some properties, we said, well, here's one right here. We can help you with this. We can either speed up closing now, because now we know where we're going to go, or we can still delay, give you time so that you can take your time in moving out. Sure. There's no rush, right? So we were able to buy the property from them, cash them out of it, and then they were able to go lease a newer home from us, right? And
best of both worlds.
So we all win in that situation. So a lot of it has to do just listening to the seller, listening to our realtor partners, and trying to figure out what is it that we're trying to solve for for this family.
So just for anybody that's listening, explain the difference. So traditional listing style, we come and list a house. Timeline wise, what would you say is different about your process than what we do on our end? So we list a house, it may, we have escrow, 30, 45 days, approvals, if it's not cash. So tell kind of how your process works.
So I'm glad you asked that, because we explain this to families all the time. Okay. Because let's just take that order house, for example.
Okay.
Or a home that needs quite a bit of work.
The order house wouldn't have gotten listed.
That wouldn't got listed, right? No, but had it gotten listed.
Okay.
Or let's just say it's grandma's house, right?
All right.
She needs her money today to get into this community that we're trying to, her family's trying to take her to. And so typically what would happen in a traditional listing is an agent would come to the door, right, meet with the family, and then start saying, okay, we need to declutter this house. Okay. Now, the average adult child lives 400 miles away from mom and dad.
Really?
Yes. So we learned this in that class.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So the average adult child is 400 miles away. How is that average adult child going to clean the house out?
They're not, and that actually makes it so. We have a listed woman in Overton this weekend, and they're coming in from Houston. Situation: family died. One of the family died, and they need to sell the house, but it's the same thing. They're like, we just need somebody to come. We can't.
Yeah. So once the house is cleared out, so let's say it takes the family a month on a good month, right? It takes them a month to clear the house out. All the relatives come, take what they want to take, whatever, things that are of value to them, right? And then they have the garage sales and the estate sales and all those things. And then the agent comes back and says, okay, well, we need to fix this, or we're going to need to fix that. We're going to need to clean this up. We're going to need to do these things. So typically, on average, okay, from the time that the realtor steps in through the door, okay, and mom or dad have the cash in their pocket, is usually about 4 months. Okay. For us, working with our team, we basically can give mom or dad the cash in 15 days or less. Okay. And then give them 30 days, give the family 30 days to come in and remove any valuables that they want to take with them, and things that they want to save. As they
don't have to, right?
Right.
They leave everything.
So they can leave everything behind. There's no garage sales. There's no anything that needs to be done. They can leave any unwanted items and any debris behind, and we take care of that. Another myth about those types of situations is that the families think that they're going to make this killing at the garage sale. Okay.
Oh.
The average garage sale nets less than $3,000 for the items that were in that home. So when you stop to think about what the estate company is going to take from that, right, and you still got to get rid of all the stuff, right, and then you've planned this out, it takes weeks to plan that out. Did you really gain anything? You may have walked away with $1,000, maybe.
Yeah.
So it's really not worth it, unless it's valuable guns, valuable paintings, those types of things.
Have you ever bought anything?
Not really. I mean, everybody, that people know pretty much what their parents had and what that value is. So for us, we can get mom her money in 15 days or less. We're going the traditional route. It usually takes about 4 months.
So one of the reasons I want to bring you in is because I want people to know that there are options.
Mm-hmm.
I think the longer you do this, and again, you've got a lot more experience, but you realize that because we're engulfed in real estate all the time, like, we understand what's going on, but a lot of people, it's a very scary thing, and they have to jump into this. So I thought it was good for people to know they have options. If they go into their parents' house and it's just a total wreck, they don't have to worry about that burden of having to pay for all that stuff.
I can't tell you how many homes we've walked into, and the adult child tells us, I didn't know my parents were living like this, because they come at Christmas time. They come, at their birthday. So because they lived at a distance. Mm-hmm. And we do know and understand the family dynamic as well, because usually it's the siblings that are living away. They're second guessing the sibling that's here taking care of mom or dad. So that also adds to the stress of, are we doing the right thing by selling the house? Are we doing this? Because they know they're going to get second guessed by all their other siblings, or family members. And so that's difficult. We refer to her as daughter Judy, because daughter Judy is the one that's taking mom to all of her doing all the work, and then she's getting second guessed by everybody, and she's not in a good spot. So if we can alleviate a lot of the stress by making it a much easier transaction, and then we can get it on a phone call, on a Zoom, with the brother or the sister that's kind of second guessing everything, and explain to them what we can do and what we can solve for them, and it saves them the trips of having to go come back and forth. Usually we're able to work something out with them.
Yeah, and one thing I always appreciate about you is you've told them you're not pushy about your deals. Like, hey, I might not be the best fit. This one might be better to list treat. Like, that's one thing I really do appreciate. It's not like, oh man, you need to get this.
Exactly.
Like, this one won't be better to list.
Yeah.
Sell this way. So usually it's one question. So I just got what's the biggest piece of advice you would give to, I'm going to three-part it. So to investors who are thinking about getting into the investment game, and also to just buyers and sellers in the current market, just with your experience, what's your piece of advice you'd give investors?
Investors, I would say, new investors, I would say, try to erase everything you see on social media.
Well, those are the highlights, right?
Yeah, those are the highlights. Yeah, try to erase that, because
it's like gamblers. They only talk about like the ones that
the winner or whatever. And so I would say that anybody that I've known over my 35 years of being an investor, being in real estate, that has been successful has to work it every day. Mm-hmm. It's truly 24/7, 365. Your phone, you need to be available to people at all times. And yes, there's boundaries. Yes, you can shut your phone off at certain times and take vacations, do all those types of things. But it's not the thing to where somebody is going to be working for you, managing all these different things, and you're going to be on a beach somewhere.
Yeah, it's not the history I taught us where it's like,
and you're not going to
only come to the mind $200,000.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you kind of forget about that. And it's a real estate is not like I tell people, we're not selling candles on Etsy, right? It's not that fast of a transaction. It's a slow transaction, so it's not something like you can just, if you have a title to a car, you can put it on the curb and put for sale and boom, it's gone. It's not, it doesn't work that way. There's a lot of other factors involved and a lot of other hands that transaction has to go through. So it's one of those things where you don't have to be a genius to build wealth in real estate. You just have to have the right temperament to be able to do it. The calm and steady is the one that's going to win. That's basically going to win the race.
And the people I've seen that are most successful are patient.
Yeah, they're very patient. Yeah,
you got to. I think even me, like when I wanted to buy my first rental house, I was like really amped up and wanted to do it. But you can't just chase it. You can't chase the deals.
Exactly.
Right? I mean,
exactly.
So we work with, and I know like you've got family that are also in real estate. So we work with a ton of people, especially moving here from out of state, other areas. So. What would you give people advice about with buying a house here, even if they're in the area, but buying a house coming into this market? What would you?
I think this is really for sellers and for buyers, really, is at this point of where we are in the market, you have to work every transaction, every offer that you get. If you're a seller and the offer that you're getting is a little bit below expectation, or the terms are a little bit below expectation, don't just foo-foo it off and not counter. I think at this point you're going to have to work every transaction and try to get the best deal that you can for yourself as well. But don't, again, you try to keep emotion out of it, because it's bottom line, it's a transaction, and so it's not a something to where that somebody's being disrespectful. That's just where they feel like that's where their offer should be.
Yeah.
So you need to work every deal. From a buyer's perspective, I would sell them the same thing. Keep in mind that this is somebody's home that you're making an offer on. Okay. Keep in mind that you're trying to make it your home as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So don't lose sight of that. Okay. And I know that's probably, counterintuitive of what I just said about emotion, right? But just keep it to where if that's really the house that you want, then put the best offer that you can on the table and be willing to negotiate as well.
You want to create an area for negotiation.
Exactly.
Like don't just piss them off right off the bat.
Exactly. And be realistic. I think, and the great thing about real estate is that other than the first two lines, the who's buying it, who's selling it, everything's negotiable, right?
Sure.
So there's a lot of places where you can kind of give and take there. So kind of pick where you're going to do. But agents even, I think now, need to understand it as well, that they're going to have to really work these transactions and see if it's not going to work, it's not going to work, right? But let's give it a shot and try to communicate and try to let's see if we can get these things to work.
One thing I didn't ask, but so you do something similar. You got these big companies like Open Door, OfferPad. So how would you say you guys differ? You obviously you're much smarter, much more personal touch, but how would you say you guys differ on terms of that buying side on those type of homes?
Yeah,
because they try to market themselves as like an easy solution as well. Sure. So how would you say you guys compare, and what's the differences there?
The biggest difference is that from our standpoint, we'll look at anything and buy anything. They're very criteria driven. So they're, you talk about a buy box, right? Yeah. And so there's certain zip codes that they stay in. There's certain types of properties that they want to purchase. We sat on an iBuyer panel, or I sat on an iBuyer panel about 4 or 5 years ago. We had a gentleman that was from Open Door there, and basically they're looking for properties that they can turn in 30 days or less, spend $25,000 or less.
So they're really they're just flipping.
They're flipping. Yeah, so Open Door is they're an investor. They're just got deeper pockets, and so they're buying to flip.
They're flipper branded as a brokerage.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Well, they've taken the model of car dealerships to where they're not making necessarily money on the product itself, on the home. They're making money on you're using their title company, their lender, all these other things. So it's like you buy a vehicle. No one's really. I mean, the dealerships aren't making any money on the new vehicle, but on extended warranty, credit life, all these other things that they can add to the vehicle. That's really where they're making. That's really where they're making their money.
Okay, very cool. So something I've asked everybody is, what do you love about living in Fort Worth? What's your favorite thing about the city of Fort Worth?
Well, I love Fort Worth, man. There's a lot of things. I love the culture, the mentality, the diversity that we have. I grew up here. I mean, I went to high school here, and my kids. This is where this is the home they've always known. I live right down the road from here, and I love the thing I like about Fort Worth is that, especially if you're in the loop, okay, especially in this area here. That I can go to the grocery store, see somebody I know. I go to a restaurant, see somebody I know. I can just walk into different places, and you can have a conversation with somebody that you hadn't seen in a while. And Fort Worth to me is just is a very friendly city, and it's one of the things that I've always enjoyed about growing up here and being here.
I laugh. All my friends say that I have like a 3-mile radius now because like I don't want. I've got that little area right.
Yeah, I know what you're about. Exactly.
Well, Steve, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today. If anybody wanted to get a hold of you or learn more information about what you guys do, how could they reach you?
Yeah, they can reach out to us. They can either go to our website at MCM Real Estate Services .com, or they can reach out to me directly at 817-798-3268. That's my cell number. Or they can shoot me an email at steve@mcmbuyshouses.com.
And I'll put all that in our comments below so people reach out to you. Again, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity. I really enjoyed this, and we'll need to do it again sometime.
Yeah, it's always great just hearing the updates of what you guys have going on. Well, everyone, this is another episode of Real Talk with Reside. If we can be a resource to you anyway, please feel free to reach out. Thanks for listening.